I've given you a little bit of background about me. Now you've been saying enough. Let's get to the meat of this thing. When are we going to start talking about true leadership and, the different aspects of being a leader? So I want to introduce you to the 5 pillars of leadership, in my opinion. Now, I started in the fintech world, banking technology, banking software world in the early 90s. So absolutely, that dates me. And in that time frame, it was a private company, high-performing company. We really kicked some butt. And we had a pretty simple performance review system that consisted of 5 categories. At that time, it was this. It was communication, leadership. Third category had 3 aspects to it. Accountability, reliability, dependability. That's number 3. So those 3 things. Performance was number 4, and productivity. And for me, that was really easy to understand. We had a 10-point scale. That was what we got rated on twice a year. And as time went on, we were acquired by a nationwide company, and we went into HR systems, and the evaluations became a little more complex, and we used different rating systems and so on and so forth, and many, many more categories, different rating systems, all of that. But at the end of the day, I always kind of gravitated back to those 5 categories, because I think to me it really came down to those 5 things, really kind of summarized how I was doing as a professional, or how I would evaluate people, could really be boiled down to those 5 things. So again, I'll take it from the top. Number 1, communication. I like to refer to this, and I'm doing really well with that thing, communication. So let me start again. Communication. I look at communication as really the glue that holds the rest of this stuff together. If you cannot communicate well, the rest of it's going to struggle. You have to be able to communicate on some level, regardless of whether you're a programmer, an engineer. It just doesn't matter. Obviously, if you want to aspire to be a CEO or a politician or whatever, communication is going to be really important for those roles. A salesperson, obviously, communication's first and foremost. But communication is key, and so as you aspire in your profession, and there's all kinds of communication, and as I get into that pillar, and as we dive into more aspects of it, there's all kinds of communication. There's the outward communication, there's internal, external, there's written, there's emails, there's the biggest one that most people don't get is listening, and lots of people aren't very good at listening. That's actually one of the most abused communication skills. A lot of people just aren't good listeners, and so that's number 1, communication. Second one, back in the day we called it leadership. As I've tried to explain this to people, the 5 elements of leadership, and one of them being called leadership, just blew people's minds. So fine, F it, came up with a different word for it, which is a little more trendy now, influence. Leadership, influence, kind of the same thing. In today's world, thinking about influencing people, leading people, guiding them, inspiring them, whatever, when you think about influencing your team, influencing those around you, your peers, your family, your friends and family. This is an area where it's really saying, what are you doing to make those people around you better? Are you leading by example? So the things that are the rules or the guidelines for your particular area of the company, your department, and so forth. Are you following the guidelines yourself as a manager? Are you leading by example by doing the things that you're preaching? Do you practice what you preach? Because if you don't walk the walk, you shouldn't talk the talk. I mean, really basic stuff like that. So influence, leadership, that category, fairly easy, straight ahead to understand, but we'll dive into different ways to do it effectively and ways to really mess it up. because believe me, if you don't practice what you preach, you're going to lose all credibility with your folks, your people. Sorry, that's really Nebraska talk there. Anyway, number 3, also confusing for some people. How can one category have 3 elements to it? Accountability, reliability, dependability. They're kind of synonymous, which means they all mean the same thing. It's being responsive, it's being trustworthy. Believe me, when you think about it, when you see it, when you know it, you know it. You really will gravitate towards those people who you can count on to be there when you need them. You'll know the people on your team that you can count on. That doesn't mean they're the best at everything else. It doesn't mean they're the best communicators. It doesn't mean they're maybe the most skilled. But man, I got to tell you, you will absolutely appreciate those people on your team that you know you can always count on to always be there when you need them. It's extremely valuable because you just never know when that time is going to come. And honestly, the rest of the team's going to recognize that as well. Now, will those be your next leaders? Possibly. Because I got to tell you, a lot of times the most skilled people, the biggest subject matter experts, don't make your best leaders. A lot of times your best leaders, your next managers, your next, person up to be the next leader of a particular group, that is one of the skills that's almost required because they've been leading by example. They've been there when people needed them. And they'll be there for their people when they need someone to help them make the right decision or pull through a tough situation. The 4th one, performance. I like to always talk about performance, number 4, and productivity, number 5, at the same time because I look at it as a little bit of a yin and a yang. Performance is, my terms, the quality of what you're producing. Now, whether you're writing code as a programmer, you're producing widgets, you're answering phones, you're selling something, that's the quality of the thing you're doing. And you can put on a great performance and it's spectacular. Productivity, on the other hand, is your productivity, how much quantity. So quality, quantity, and that balance between those two things can be really interesting. I started my career in phone support and implementation, and phone support was a really, really good way to measure this because there were certain people on phones who would answer the phone and get a quick answer out there, and they'd answer it again, and boy, at the end of the day, their stats were fantastic. They answered 80 calls that day, and some of us were in 30 and 40 calls. And what you would recognize then the next day is out of those 80 calls they answered, 40 of them also called back because whatever they suggested didn't work. So their performance sucked. Productivity, it was high, but honestly, as you counter that against the performance, it truly wasn't very good either, even though the numbers were high. So I think it's very difficult to look at performance and productivity in a silo or by itself. You have to look at those two things together. So I'm simply laying these things out there. These are the 5 pillars that I'll start laying out different chapters and going into deeper discussions about how you can really accelerate your career. Think about how you want to focus, whether this is for someone who's in college, wanting to think about how you can participate in different clubs, your fraternity, or whether you're a new professional trying to make your way in the law firm or the accounting firm or a new tech company. I'll help you out with that if you're a new manager and trying to figure out how to lead your team or evaluate your team, or you're an executive trying to figure out what's the best way to evaluate your next up manager or figure out who the new leaders of your organization are going to be. I'm going to try to break it down for you into these 5 categories as we go forward, and some cases we'll get deep into the different aspects of these things. Now, I'll do that in some interesting ways. I like to use analogies. I'll get into some of those things. I think a lot of times you'll hear the analogy, people will remember a story. They'll forget some of the facts or details, but they'll remember a story. So I'll try to deliver a lot of these things either with a real world story or a sports analogy because I like sports, or something of that nature. So that's where we're at. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it.